Hello and welcome to Literally Me, the official Ryan Gosling rewatch podcast, but there's nothing official about us. I'm your host, Dean's Beans, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, my even better co-host, and an
Wow.
even better, what else are you good at? TikTok editor. You're really good at editing TikToks. The videos
Oh,
themselves,
wow.
crap. Fluffy Duffy, hello.
One thing I appreciate your very kind words, but one thing I'm not good at and you're not good at
Yeah.
is staying on topic. Because today, once again, we're not talking about Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I actually have a little story to share with our listeners slash viewers of something
Okay.
that happened to me this week. So
What
I
happened to you this week?
I went to the cinema, or as I like to call it, the Ryan Gosling Museum.
Mm.
And I said, "Can I have one ticket to your latest Ryan Gosling movie, please?" And they said, "We don't have any Ryan Gosling movies." And I went, "Oh, that's a shame." And then we went, "But we do have a movie without him." And I said, "Whoa, what?" And I actually had this concept explained to me. And apparently, it's like a film with Ryan Gosling, but where Ryan Gosling would be, they get some other schmuck in to fill his place. So then I sat and I watched this film, and after watching this film, I figured out that these films are actually a part of a larger universe of cinema. Um, and then I watched all the other films and everything. And then
Wait,
some,
hold on. But wait, hold on.
yeah,
But Ryan Gosling was in those other films, right?
no, none of them have Ryan Gosling in.
What?
I know there was like 40 of them. Um, and then some news came out about this universe cinematically, about someone who's being cast in this universe. Um,
Yes.
and it wasn't Ryan Gosling,
I I'm flabbergasted.
but
What are
it was
they doing?
Ryan Gosling. Um, uh,
So,
so we thought we'd test out this. I think it's a gimmick of cinema. I don't think it's going to stand the test of time. Films without Ryan Gosling. But as the title is given away, we're going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, and then we're going to talk about some of the San Diego Comic-Con Marvel news.
because a lot has happened. A
Yes,
lot
a lot.
has happened. But before we get into that,
Yeah,
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Before we get into our pros, our cons, things we liked, things we didn't like,
Yeah,
that's what that means.
yeah,
Um, out of 10,
yeah.
what would you give this movie?
7.5, I think.
I give it an 8.
Okay, okay, we're pretty similar. Um, I think I wrote in my letterbox review for this film that I really don't know like what my firm opinion on this film is going to be. And I gave it 4 stars, and I said I think this is going to change. And not to give away too much of my opinion on this film, but I think this is the kind of film that the more I watch it, the less I'll like it.
Yeah, so I'm seeing this. I saw this movie Thursday afternoon.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
seeing it again Sunday night, so tonight.
Yeah,
And then I'm seeing it tomorrow night as
mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah.
So I think by Monday night, I'll have a pretty good stance of how I feel about this film. However, I think my opinion on it might change. However, this film will always have a very special place in like my heart when it comes to Marvel movies.
That is understandable. Do you want to just give me your 30-second review?
My 30-second review, sure. I think this movie was a love letter to the Fox universe, and with that, it pulled no punches and was very fun to watch. However, the plot is flimsy and it at times just feels like it's there to serve the cameos.
Yeah. Personally, I would say something very similar. Uh, I think I it's weird. I kind of talk. I think this is going to lead into what we're talking about next, but I think there is kind of an overindulgence in nostalgia with Marvel at the moment, and I think this film has just about reached my limit. I think I had a big bucket of nostalgia. No Way Home put a load of water in it. Multiverse of Madness put a little bit in there. This film, dumped a load in, and now it's right filled to the brim. And I think more nostalgia is going to really have diminishing returns for this universe for me, because I think It's kind of like junk food of cinema, you know. Like I think some of the strongest stuff in the first saga of the MCU are really great films as themselves without the wider context of the universe or the wider context of the characters in the comics or blah blah blah. Well, I think this film, if you were like, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, and it kind of is stupid to measure a film on this basis. But if you measure this film on just the basis of this film exists in a vacuum, I think, it would be very bad.
But with that said, I agree with what you're saying. And when it comes to your bucket analogy, I think it's spot on. However, Tobey Maguire coming back.
Yeah.
The cameos in this film, I'm not going to get into spoilers quite yet. We will soon, though, just in case if you're watching and haven't seen the film.
Yeah.
They're all things that I think as a longtime fan of this franchise, we've wanted to see.
I agree.
After this movie, I don't think there's anything else I want to see.
Well, I just thought about this, and there is one more thing they could do that I'd want to see, and then after that, I'm done with nostalgia, and that would be bringing Tobey Maguire in with Hugh Jackman, and I think that is going to happen.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think at that point they've got to start focusing on the new characters as well. That's the thing. I think a fear of mine, I don't think this makes the film any worse, but a fear of mine is by focusing on this Fox stuff so much and focusing on Hugh Jackman specifically, I think you're kind of delaying the start of the X-Men in the MCU and you're kind of weakening the X-Men in the MCU. If we've already got all this Wolverine stuff, like I think the fact it's going to be kind of, that's a spoiler thought, what I was about to say.
Okay. All right. So I think with that, I think that's a good transition. Let's that was our brief little opinions on the film. Now we're going to get into spoilers. We're going to get into what we really liked and what we didn't really like. So if you haven't seen the movie, maybe skip. You can go ahead and skip to when we do the San Diego Comic-Con stuff.
I'll put time codes in.
I appreciate you, Dean. Cool. All right. So with that said, spoilers. What was your favorite cameo?
I think it has to be Chris Evans.
Yeah. Did you see that coming?
Yes, I think that has been something that's been floated around so much that when Chris Evans was on screen, I was like, oh, that's gonna be the Human Torch. Because I think it's kind of a concept that's been mentioned so much.
I don't know I think maybe because I had heard that so early on, it just escaped my brain.
Yeah.
But I really thought it was going to be a Captain America.
Really? I also
I was just being stupid, but I was very pleasantly surprised when he did.
Yeah, I do also think there's no way Marvel would do a Captain America thing when you have a Captain America film with a new Captain America coming out.
Yeah.
Next year, like you don't want to take away with that. And I'm glad. I think it worked well. I think the end credit scene with him was really funny. Like that was I think one of the hardest bits I laughed at in the film. I think it was really nice seeing Chris Evans in a very different role in the same universe.
The next cameo I liked was Gambit.
I liked Gambit. I think it looked really good. I think the design was good. I think Channing Tatum, as always, was funny. Yeah.
That was when I was really pleased to see. Because I felt bad for him, and I've wanted to see Gambit on screen for a while.
No, I agree. No, I do agree, actually. I have thoughts on other cameos, but I think they're not as relevant. So my thoughts on the other big two are obviously Blade and Elektra. And especially Elektra. And I get it's kind of this whole commentary on, it's trying to be this whole commentary on like legacy characters that doesn't really work. But it's so weird that people are getting so hyped about cameos of films that people don't like.
Yeah. Elektra is like the one where I'm like, that's but I don't know. Elektra, that one was, if I had to choose the one I was least intrigued by, it would be that.
Yeah, out of the major ones, there's a lot of little background ones.
Something it's kind of a nitpick, but I wasn't a big fan of either, is there are some cameos in this film of like Ezekiel and Juggernaut.
Yeah.
They're just simply played by different actors.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little cheap.
Yeah, especially like I could really notice it wasn't Vinnie Jones. Like he's
And he's a much bigger actor than whoever plays Ezekiel, right?
yeah. I mean, Vinnie Jones is like he's more of a big deal here because he's like in a lot of classic British films, like a lot of Guy Ritchie stuff and blah blah blah. Um, so it was a shame. Like it took me a second to be like, oh no, that's not him, which is a shame. But you know, you'd be like, oh, it's the multiverse or whatever. Like it's not.
Yeah, but that's just a little cheap, in my opinion.
I did really like seeing Daphne Keane back. I think she was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they gave her something to do.
Yep.
Um, I'm trying to. That's all the main cameos. You know, there's stuff like oh B-52's in it. No
Oh,
one.
what about Henry Cavill?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Did you see that one coming?
I knew it wasn't Hugh Jackman, but I don't think on my brain immediately went to Henry Cavill because I don't think of when you go like suit Wolverine castings. I don't see his name come up a lot. You know.
Mm-mm. But to be fair, like if anything, I'm glad that he's one who got it because we
Yeah,
all
yeah.
we love Henry Cavill and we want to
I'm
see
not.
him
Yeah, I'm
happy.
not saying that as a complaint of the cameo, just as
Yeah.
a bit more of a oh that came out of nowhere. Yeah,
So, what was your favorite part about what worked the most in this film for you?
I would say the humor for the most part. I
Mm-hmm.
said like I watched this with my mum, and afterwards she was like, "Yeah, I didn't understand a lot of the jokes, like the stuff people were laughing at." I was like, I really feel like to understand every single joke in this film, you need to have had an obsession for the last 20 years about
Yeah,
this.
for sure.
And I know you and I are in the same boat where like we are so deep in this that like there's so many little bits where we would be like, ha ha ha, very funny.
I got my roommate
Yeah,
who watched. He hadn't seen any X-Men film prior to this.
yeah,
We watched all of them, even New Mutants.
yeah.
We rewatched every single one, and there were still some things he didn't get.
But like even like you'd watch even if you watched every X-Men film, you'd be like, why is Channing Tatum playing Gambit? You
Yeah,
know?
he didn't know. Then I explained to him afterwards how big of a deal it was.
Like that's what I
Um,
mean. It's kind of a bit stuff like that. There's so much metatextual stuff. I think the film is genuinely funny. I think the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds is obviously really great.
it works really well.
Yeah, I have issues with like the characters themselves, like and how they bounce off each other as the film develops,
Mm-hmm.
like their arcs, I should say. Um,
Yep.
but their chemistry is great. The film's really funny. I feel like Deadpool films do need a space. I've never been a massive like I'm not a massive fan of the first Deadpool film. I do like the second one. These films, I think they really need like a 3-4 year break between them, whatever it's been. Because if I got one of these every single year, I would not be able to.
No, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the last Deadpool. Like, I don't ever see them making another Deadpool movie.
I'd be in. I would imagine they will because this looks like it's going to make a lot of money, but we'll see.
I don't. I will see. We'll see. But I am pretty excited to talk negatively about this movie. So should we just do that?
Sorry, just the thought of being negative about a Marvel film made me want to. No, of course. I was worried. Honestly, since watching this film, I was worried about our conversation because I thought I was going to be a lot more negative than you are, and I think I'm about to be because I think my least favorite thing about this film, you're not going to dislike as much as I did.
Well, so I think. So, like I said, I'd watch all the X-Men movies prior to this.
Yeah,
That included Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2.
yeah,
This Deadpool almost feels like a different character.
yeah. I can see that.
Because his motivations are different. Because in the first two, he wants a family, but what he really wants is a family with Vanessa, and
Yeah,
he wants. But in this one, it's none of that, and instead he wants to matter, and he
yeah,
wants to be somebody important, which just hasn't wasn't the case in the first two,
yeah.
and so his overall arc just felt like it came out of nowhere. And on top of that, Wolverine's did too. Every time they tried to build on that, it honestly, I had to like review it after the movie so I could make sure I understood it.
So I don't mind Wolf. I quite like Wolverine's arc that he's kind of like this wasted Wolverine and blah blah blah. My issue is that like they do everyone in this universe is like, oh, this guy's the worst Wolverine, and everyone in his universe absolutely hates him and blah blah blah. And then you get to what actually happened, and what he did wasn't, like it wasn't a good thing, but it wasn't like, oh, this guy's literally the worst guy ever type thing. Like I think
Yeah,
the reveal of what made him the worst Wolverine wasn't interesting enough, and I just wish they would lend into something worse.
me too. I think like they could have done even something as simple as like his mind was controlled, or like something as
Yeah,
simple as like him
yeah.
killing the X-Men, or
I
like
think
something like that.
I think you could do something cool like his universe's version of Cassandra Nova took over his mind and made him kill all the X-Men.
Yeah,
Something like that that
something
would
like that.
the work that ties in with the story. And yeah, I think that would work. Do you know what my biggest complaint about this film is?
What?
The action.
Yeah, yeah. I am going to disagree on you with this, but continue.
So to begin with, I don't think the action is great. I think Deadpool 2 action is miles better. I mean, I think that is just, David Leitch versus Sean Levy. I think that's, a very unfair comparison. But I'm not going to complain about the action in terms of how it is done. I'm going to complain about the action, about what it is doing, because I think action in a film needs to serve a purpose. I think it needs to either further the characters or further the plot. And a lot of the time, the action in this film did neither. And it was just like a little break from the plot. Oh, let's have some action. Okay, let's move on.
So I agree with you, but I don't think that's a problem with the action in this film because it goes further than that. Like, I think almost the action set pieces they were set before they
Yeah.
wrote the script.
Yeah.
Almost.
And that's
Like they're
kind of
like, we need this fight, we need this fight, we need this fight, and the plot serves to get you from point A to point from set A to set B.
can I give you my two least favorite examples? But I think the fact that the plot ignored the action made the action a lot weaker to me and made me care a lot less.
I get yeah. Give me your.
So there's two big examples of this where the plot serves nothing. The first one is a bit more debatable. The second one really annoyed me. The first one is the Wolverine versus Deadpool fight in the Toyota Odyssey, where
Yeah.
I think this was a good action scene. I think it was fun, but like it just ended. Like there was no, like I was sitting and going, oh, how are they going to resolve this? They didn't resolve it, and then it just ends. And then the fact that this fight happened doesn't inform what the characters are doing at all for the rest of the film. Like if you cut that fight out, the film would go exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
The second example, I'll ask you a question for this, Harlem.
Okay.
If the Deadpool core weren't in this film, what would have changed?
Nothing. That if I was gonna say the Deadpool fight, they do nothing. It's almost like Cassandra Nova called on them,
Yeah.
but then they were just Deadpool and Wolverine were able to walk away. Like what happens? How do they?
No,
Oh,
they did.
because of dead Peter
Yeah,
Pool.
Peter Paul. So I don't like the thing is I kind of forgive the Deadpool versus Wolverine fight because I think that fight is really cool. I think seeing these two guys fight really brutally and see like I think it's like a best way to see their healing factors when it's two guys with it going up against each other. I think that works. This Deadpool Wolverine fight I don't think is very even interesting stylistically. Like there's a few angles you could complain about this at. Number one, they're all Deadpools and they all immediately just get absolutely beaten. Like that's kind of, I know that's kind of like a nitpick, but there's really interesting ways you could do this fight where Deadpool's like, oh, these guys are all like me, so they're really good at fighting, and then you could do something interesting with that, which they don't do. And then the other thing is, I really enjoyed the joke that Nice Pool doesn't have a healing factor.
Yeah,
I
that was
think that's
funny.
a really funny joke. If they had just mowed through these guys and it turned out none of the other Deadpools had a healing factor and that like he was an anomaly in the multiverse, I think that would be a funny joke that works as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they fight through all of them, and then they just get back up, and then the fight ends. So I was kind of a bit like, oh,
But it's the relationship I have. I agree with what you're saying. However, at the same time, it was super cool to watch. Like it's a weird relationship where like I've watched a lot of movies,
yeah,
and when I see this, it's really fun to watch, and I'm enjoying myself so much, and it's well shot. I think the action scene in it, if you take away the context, like you're just watching a clip on TikTok, right? You're gonna it's very fun to watch.
see, I think that's where we disagree as well, because I don't think I really enjoyed the action scene that much. I don't know if I was just too distracted by my opinion on it, but I was watching it and I don't think I felt the same kind of this is really cool thing. Because number one, I didn't find the Deadpool core that interesting before the fight. You know, I think Nice Paul was a funny version of the character. Um, the rest of them, I have no, left no impression on me that wasn't very interesting.
I get what you're saying. I do. They did not serve a big purpose, but I think a lot of this film is that's cool. Let's do that. And the dead core or whatever it's called is cool, and it's fun to see it. And I think it's this is literally me, Ryan Gosling podcast. We're critiquing movies, and that's what But for this, I feel like I just had to turn off my critic goggles and put on my fan service goggles because that's what this movie is. And
Yeah,
I do like,
I
and
I
I think what is keeping this movie from a perfect score is the critique you have because I agree with you. I don't like disagree. I did like the action scenes, but and so I think that's what we disagree on. But in how they serve the story, I think we see pretty clear.
Yeah, and I do also disagree that I don't think the Deadpool core is that interesting or cool either. Like I don't like I think it's more to do with the fact that they were introduced for this one scene. I think if we got to know them a bit more, I think it would or if they were funnier or more I don't know what it was exactly, but I think if they made the Deadpool core more compelling, I would have enjoyed this scene more. But they mentioned them and then you see them in this one scene and it just didn't work for me.
Fair enough. Um,
Can
I
I
was
give
also hoping we would get Walker Scobell in there, and we
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, that's true. Can I give you another a
Um,
smaller complaint?
so but and how did you feel about Cassandra Nova?
I think she worked. Um, this is also like the nerd in me. I like kind of hope her powers were more um defined.
What?
Her powers were more defined.
Defont? Defined. I thought you said Defont, and I'm like,
No,
what?
like that is kind of just the nerd in me. But I think she was threatening. I thought she was menacing, and I thought you know her motivations made sense.
Her motivations made sense, but when it came to the whole TVA drama,
Yeah,
right? And her like I felt like that whole subplot was also a little flimsy too.
yeah.
And a lot of it is just like it's it's just barely enough for me to be like, oh, okay, I get it.
I think it's more the TVA stuff that I disliked more than the Cassandra Nova stuff.
I think it's like because it's not like this movie retcons a TVA,
No.
but like it feels like the TVA is different in every interpretation it appears.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I don't know.
No, I would agree. Can I give you one other small complaint?
Yeah.
I don't think this is that small because I think this is kind of going to have big ramifications for the rest of the MCU. Is that now the TVA is a lot more lax on what rules are and blah blah blah. People's biggest complaint about the multiverse, which has usually kind of been a subtle thing, this film has said out loud, basically, oh, if your favorite character dies, don't worry, we can go find an almost exact copy of them and they can be replaced.
Yeah. But yeah.
and I don't like that's that's something people complain about the multiverse is that all stakes are gone, blah blah blah, and I didn't really agree with it. But when there was a bit in like Wolverine in this film at the end, it looked like he was going to die. I was like, I don't care because we just saw that it's pretty easy to go find another one. If he dies in this film, I'm not going to be like, oh no, we're never going to see Hugh Jackman again because I don't think it would have changed my mind on whether or not we were going to see him.
Well, I agree. And I don't think Marvel's in a place where I'm confident enough where they won't go that route.
Yeah, exactly.
But with that said, technically speaking, the movie does say that, like, or give the implication that this is the only Wolverine that they could find.
And there's also the whole thing that the TVA made a special exception to let this one stay. But
yeah, but it's so
the implication is still there.
It's so like okay, like
yeah,
I don't trust you.
The fact that Hugh Jackman is staying around in the way he is, I wasn't also a big fan of because I just want to get to an MCU version of this stuff. But
I personally, let's say an X-Men movie comes out in the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want Wolverine to be on that team.
I can see that as well. Yeah, I'm just happy with them to like dispose of Hugh Jackman.
I think
after
Secret Wars, you get Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman in there, and you're good, and then they should be done. And Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, especially with the whole joke of doing this until you're 90 thing.
Yeah, which was funny. That was funny.
Which is a funny joke until Marvel starts to do it for real.
I feel like people listening to this, I enjoyed this when I had a good time watching.
I had
a
good time as well. But
and we're just this is what we got. We're just talking about what doesn't make it perfect.
And the complaints I think are a lot easier to quantify than the things that worked. Because the things that worked were it's funny and it's nice to see Chris Evans and Hugh Jackman. Like I think the stuff that is good about this film is simple. The stuff that is bad about this film is interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
Once I do feel like I should iterate, it's good to see Hugh Jackman again. I think he really brings such like an anger and an angst to this role, which is solid. Ryan Reynolds, amazing. The film looks good.
I love Dogpool. I was very surprised how much I fell in love with that little thing.
Yeah.
One other complaint, and I think this is my last complaint, and then I'm kind of all ringed out.
Go on.
In the beginning of the film, you have a Happy Hogan scene.
Yeah.
And Deadpool just appears in the 616 universe.
Yeah.
And then he just goes back to his regular universe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no explanation.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to go, Cable's thinking clearly across universes as well.
Yeah, but like Cable can't travel across universes.
No.
It's
just a bit. It's once again one of those things where this film is like they wrote a series of really good vignettes and then they were like, how can we make a film out of this?
No, I agree. And that was the thing that I think peeved me the most. Because like how did that? And usually
there are ways you could have done it with one line.
That movie, I think my roommate is super, super nitpicky on films. Sorry, Devin. It's the truth. But the Deadpool films, whenever there is a thing of like a lazy writing or a MacGuffin or anything, Deadpool looks at the camera and he addresses it. So it gets rid of all of his little complaints. It's fantastic.
It's called hanging a lantern. That technique is called. Here's some education.
Sure.
It's like in the classic example is like The Force Awakens. When Han Solo goes, they just keep making Death Stars.
Right. Yes. They don't hang a lantern for this universe jumping at all. And so that's why it peeved me, because I was expecting a little bit of a thing of him to kind of being like, how did I get over there? But that never happened.
Yeah, so it could have easily been solved with one line. Anyway, should we move on from Deadpool?
Yes.
Okay. Quickly, do you want to just breeze over some of the small stuff at Comic-Con for Marvel?
Yeah, do you have a list up or not?
I don't have a list up, but I was going to go off the top of my head. If we can have a list, it would be useful. But
I could pull something up real quick. So you rattle some off, and then I'll bring the rest up.
So we got some Captain America, Brave New World. Is that what it's called? It's confusing because it was New World Order. So we had Captain America stuff with Giancarlo Esposito being announced as what's his character called? We found out the name of his character, and we found out that there's adamantium in this film.
Sidewinder.
Sidewinder. And we found out there's adamantium and probably other things about Captain America.
All right, so I have it up, okay?
Yeah.
So we got to learn the guy's name, Thunderbolts, got like a panel.
Yeah.
But for what it seems like we didn't really figure out anything new.
No, I don't. I haven't seen anything new about that. Have you seen the video of David Harbour coming out in his costume?
Yep, that was awesome.
That's a bit of fun.
Fantastic Four. It was announced the new title name is First Steps. They are filming now. We got a little sneak peek that was leaked online, and we definitely didn't see. Wink, 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 wink. We got Giancarlo Esposito's name. We got our first look at that fantastic car. And then we got the big news, which will take up the rest of this podcast.
Yeah. Can we quickly talk about the trailer first, though? This trailer was leaked. If you're wondering, wait, how did Dean and Harlan see a trailer that was leaked? We were there. We were in the
Yes, we were in the audience. And everything is legal.
So I've heard it's leaked. I haven't seen any evidence of that. But I think the aesthetic is sick. The 60s aesthetic. A large part of this seems to be like a 4:3 ratio, which I think works for this because the whole thing is 60s. When Zack Snyder does it, it's silly though. Sorry. And I think the sneak peek at Galactus is fun. I'm growing on Pedro Pascal. I was never anti Pedro Pascal, but he's growing on me in this role.
Yes. I was very surprised by how atmospheric the trailer was, and it got me so excited for this movie. Go ahead.
It now makes sense why they chose Matt Shakman to direct, but he was the WandaVision guy. And originally I'm like, oh yeah, I'm happy they chose him because he did good with WandaVision. But now I'm like, oh, I'm happy they chose him because this is doing a similar thing to WandaVision, where it's really emulating a style. And they had all the fake TV shows in it as well, which was fun. Yeah.
I think this has the potential to be one of the one of the best MCU movies if they do it well.
I agree. It's always been my most anticipated.
And even the little bit we got from the cast interacting with each other, they seem to have so much chemistry on screen.
Yes, they do. Especially Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal in some interviews. They do really well. And then you get a little sneak peek at Galactus, which is a lot of fun. Anyway.
Yeah.
They have been, people have been fan casting Doctor Doom for a very long time. And they found some guy who was in some indie films like Chaplin and
His Kiss Bang Bang.
Dr. Dolittle.
So yeah. Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Doom.
Yeah. We have
Avengers Doomsday.
We haven't properly spoken about this either. We've kind of just I feel like Harlan and I have done this stuff for long enough that we've just assessed each other's vibes. Honestly, when I heard the news, I wasn't 100% sure how far you were going to lean a certain way. Did you think you had a pretty good hold of what my opinion was going to be?
No, because when I heard it, I was on the fence. I was as in the middle as you could get. Now I am not.
But honestly, I had a feeling you were going to be kind of on the fence. I feel like I was more on the fence, and the more I ruminate on it, the less I like it. Before we get into all the nitty gritty, and there's so much to unpack with Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, I'm going to ask you a question first that I was thinking about earlier on. if you existed in this universe where you still knew Robert Downey Jr. as well as you do as an actor, but he never played Iron Man, what would you
Okay.
have thought of the announcement?
I think the same way I would think about Pedro Pascal.
I agree. Like it's definitely an out of left field pick, but it could work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not the I don't think that's the way they're going to go. I think they will play into it being a variant of Tony Stark. I don't think they're going to play it blind. Like, this is a new character. Like, you don't know this man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see them doing that.
It's because they did, like, I've heard a lot of people being like, it's a Tony Stark variant. The one thing is that they did introduce him as Victor Von Doom. You know,
Yes.
they didn't introduce him as Doctor Doom. It was Victor Von Doom. I think you could do a whole film. Let's say he's in Fantastic Four, not very much, but he's in the film a bit. I think you could do a whole film of him just being Doom and like you not linking it to Tony Stark at all, apart from maybe some fun references. And then in the next film, you know, Spider-Man and Thor and Hulk meet this Doctor Doom. I think that could be interesting. But obviously, they're going to have to play it from the angle that, oh, this guy looks just like the other guy, because then why else would you choose him?
I agree. It seems out of left field because it is out of left field. And if I'm being honest, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I want to say Marvel knows what they're doing and let Marvel cook. But they haven't. Marvel has not, since Endgame, put up. Like, I just don't have faith that they aren't just doing this out of they want people to get in seats. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I give you an interesting thing, an interesting viewpoint I'd thought on this recently?
Sure.
Is that post Endgame, my two biggest complaints about the MCU is number one, the nostalgia bucket. Something something I coined this episode. I think this definitely is the kind of thing where they've poured too much water and the bucket of nostalgia is now overflowing. I think
Yes.
this kind of lacks the subtlety of some of the other stuff. But my second biggest complaint, and the complaint I've seen a lot of, is that with films like Black Widow, Eternals, that sort of thing, they've been playing things too safe. And I think this is an example of them doing the opposite of that.
That's true. Yeah, this is not a safe choice by any means, but they might think it is.
But
I don't know.
It can't, in some ways, it's a safe choice because they're like, this guy's going to get people in seats, and this guy's going to get like. I cannot think of a guy. I can't think of a person they could have chosen that would have gotten more attention than Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's why it's the safe choice because they know people are going to talk about this. Like there's unless they announced Donald Trump, there is no one in the world that would have got more attention.
I think because Doomsday,
Yeah.
that's in 2 years.
Yeah.
When we knew Infinity War was in 2 years, Marvel had already built things up to that point where it was huge.
Exactly.
They need to make Doomsday huge, and doing this is going to make it huge no matter what they do.
Yeah.
And I hope, because I'm going to assume that this was set in stone pretty recently.
Did you hear the rumor about this last week?
I heard that there was a rumor last week, like today, but I didn't hear it last week.
I heard the rumor maybe like 8-9 days ago, and it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, okay, and I didn't think about it at all because I gave it no credence because I'm like, that's daft. So I think because that rumor came out so recently that this is a recent thing.
I'm going to assume once the Russo brothers signed on, Robert Downey Jr. did.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. They have to win me over. I don't like it. What?
Another thing I don't like is you want, like, I'm a big Fantastic Four guy. Like I've really been championing the film and the team Doctor Doom is a big part of that. Like, Doctor Doom, I would argue, is as like intrinsic to the Fantastic Four as like Joker is to Batman. Like, he is such a core part of he is like the fifth member, because the inter-character relationships are just as strong with Doctor Doom as they are within the team. And you want Doctor Doom to be kind of like a Loki, where he appears in multiple films as a villain and he keeps coming back up. Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be in many of these films.
What I hope is going to happen, and that's in my video today, which will be out already by the time you guys are listening to this podcast. But I think the way to do it is you have Robert Downey Jr. be Doctor Doom in these two Avengers movies.
Yeah.
And then somehow from that, the Victor Von Doom of the 616 universe, like, that causes the catalyst for his character.
Can I give you what I think is going to happen and what I hope will happen?
What is that?
Avengers Secret Wars ends with a new universe being created.
That would be interesting.
I want Avengers Secret. Number one, I think Marvel have realized that this multiverse stuff isn't going as well as they hoped. Why they joke about it in Deadpool. Clearly, there's some level of awareness somewhere about it. So, in Secret Wars, you can end the multiverse by combining Deadpool and Fantastic Four and whatever else into the one universe. And it's a good way to introduce mutants. Like, I think this is a really interesting way to be like, oh no, mutants have been here all along. And that's something people have been complaining about, because it's weird to just introduce mutants now. And also, it's a great way if you want to bring back a certain character, if you want a new, like Tony Stark, for example. I don't think he's a great example, but if you want a new Tony Stark, you can be like, oh, this actor's playing the new Tony Stark in this new universe. Like, I think it's the clever thing to do, and I do think it's what they will do.
I hope they do something like that. But with that said, you have DC resetting everything. I just feel like it's going to be asking a lot from audiences to be able to accept that.
I think, what I'm saying is a very soft reset. Like,
okay,
I'm saying largely keep, like, all the same people around. But if there's small changes you want to make, like you recast Doctor Doom, then you can just do it and introduce mutants. I think the main reason to do it is for mutants.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Have you heard the joke about them being like, hey, we should get that guy from Oppenheimer to play Doctor Doom? And then Marvel was like, that's a really good idea.
So ridiculous. Like, Robert Downey Jr., he's a good actor, and I think he'll be able to do it.
I think he'll do well, but there's definitely people that would do better.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I can't imagine the voice right now. And the voice is the whole thing, because he's got the mask, It
would be really funny if he just was Tony Stark in a Doctor. Like if he had the same exact personality.
Imagine if I keep picturing, do you know they do the inside of the mask shot with Iron Man? Imagine if they kept doing that with Doctor Doom.
Crazy.
We should wrap this up soon. But the other thing that I'm like, it's like they might not lean into the magic as much with Robert Downey Jr., which I think would be a big shame, because I think it's something that makes Doctor Doom very interesting and different.
I really want to see a comic accurate version of Doctor Doom.
Yeah, like, give him the magic and the science and all of that. And I still think this will be that.
I hope so. I really do. Because every other Fantastic Four movie, I don't mind the Doctor Doom from the original two.
Yeah.
But it's like his own thing. I don't know.
It's no, like, you want, I think the main, not the main thing, because I really want him to be the leader of Latvia and blah, blah, blah. But the overlap of magic and science, I think, is what really makes this character's skill set compelling. And without that, it's just going to be another Iron Man. Even if it's not Robert Downey Jr. in the suit.
Right.
It does just seem desperate to me.
I think a good way to wrap this up.
Yeah.
if you had out of 10
Yeah.
rank this casting, what would it be?
Oh, that's a
I
tricky
think
question. Go
I
on.
would give it a solid 4 out of 10.
I was gonna say I was leaning towards like a 4. I was thinking 4. It's such a weird thing to discuss because unlike any casting choice ever, there's so many layers to this. Like there's so much context
Yeah.
surrounding this. Like if you're like, oh, David Corn Sweat as Superman, yeah, he seems good. Great casting.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to this.
I think it's weird because he's a great actor
Mhm.
and he'll give it his all, but also you're risking ruining Tony Stark's legacy entirely.
And
And also you're potentially going to ruin Doctor Doom's legacy
yeah,
after waiting so long to see him in the MCU.
something Jay Stoops said in a video, a creator Harlan and I are big fans of, which I really resonated with. And it kind of put into words something I wasn't able to say. Something Jay Stoops is very good at, genuinely, is that she said that they're trying to get back the fans they've lost rather than getting new fans.
Mm.
And this universe isn't sustainable if you're going to keep trying to, if you keep the same fan base, you need to get new fans. And this isn't doing that.
Yeah. And they've lost most of their fans because the movies are just lazy.
Yeah. Okay. Final 2 questions for you.
Yes.
You have to cast Ryan Gosling in the Fantastic Four and in Deadpool and Wolverine. Go.
Like you replace them.
Yeah.
All right, Deadpool and Wolverine, easy.
Right.
You cast him as Nice Pool.
That's actually
Easiest casting.
Nice Pool is so funny. I really think it'd be a really good Nice Pool.
He would. He'd be great.
I genuinely think the best joke in the film is Nice Pool going, the proposal.
Yeah, it was so fun. I was laughing so hard that my roommate didn't know what that was.
And it's
But
such a good joke that Deadpool goes, is that what you think I'd do? I think that's the funniest joke. Okay. In Fantastic Four,
wait, who do you agree with me with Nice Pool? Or do you
I
think there's
said Blade as a joke, but I think
oh,
Nice Pool is probably the best choice. I'm trying to think of, there's not many people in this film. I do think, yeah.
Fantastic Four though? I think Johnny Storm is he's a little bit too old.
A little bit too old.
The Thing, he's not like
Gruff.
yeah. But I don't think he's like as composed as Reed Richards needs to be.
I kind of think he would be a good. I kind of think.
Yeah, he would. He
Oh,
would.
I
Just
don't. I
say
don't
it.
want to. I can't say it. I think he would be a good Doom.
I don't think he'd be a good Doom, but he'd be as good as Robert Downey Jr. is going to be.
I think he'd be better.
Again, are we in that universe where he never played Tony Stark, but he's as big as he was?
Yeah.
I think it'd be about the same.
Fair enough. I just think Ryan Gosling has more range.
He froze again.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Next week we'll be talking
I'm gonna assume you're saying something super stupid. Like, yeah, but I think Ryan Gosling's abs are better, which is not. But if we're doing the abs, here's my hot take. Hugh Jackman should be cast as Doctor Doom. I think that's what would work.
Who would be
See,
better,
it's
Robert
weird.
Downey Jr. or who'd be better, Robert Downey Jr. or Hugh Jackman?
What do you say?
Who's better for Doom, RDJ or Hugh Jackman?
I'd probably say Hugh Jackman.
I think I'd say Robert Downey Jr.
Honestly, at this point, it's so monotonous. I don't know.
Let's make a video of rating MCU actors at how good they would do at being Doctor Doom. I'm making that into a TikTok. Okay, thank you.
You should do that. You can claim that one.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Next week we'll definitely be talking about Ryan Gosling.
Yep. Next week we'll definitely be talking about Lars and the Real Girl. That is what you should expect next week.
We had to swap one Ryan for another Ryan this week.
Yeah, it's a Ryan and same as last week. We wanted to talk about Ryan.
Oh yeah. I honestly most of that
Were
time,
you looking at your other camera, your gym camera, real quick? Like,
yeah.
what is he talking about? This guy.
Most of the other that face was mostly me trying to remember what we talked about last week. It
The
wasn't even
boys.
it wasn't even like who's Ryan? Oh yeah. Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you for listening.
You're
Dean
welcome.
froze on me again, so I'm just gonna wrap this up and he's gonna click stop recording eventually. Thank you for listening, everybody. Adios, 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 adios.